streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV. The West Bloomfield Youth Assistants will be recognizing local youth for their volunteer service, personal growth, and leadership. Join us as schools, hospitals, and religious organizations nominate the up-and-comers in your community. Show your pride for our future. The Youth Recognition Awards, May 10th at 6 p.m. at the West Bloomfield Middle School. This community update from Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
How can you get involved with upcoming elections? West Bloomfield Township wants you to join the ranks as an election inspector. Get trained on using polling equipment, proper procedures for handling ballots, and more to keep the voting process smooth and safe. If you're interested, go to wbtownship.org for more information or call the clerk's office with the number provided on screen. This community update from Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin our show as we do each and every day by taking a look at what's making headlines across Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Our top story comes from Isabel Lohman at Bridge, Michigan today, similar to the after-event action taken by Oxford Community Schools following the November 2021 shooting at Oxford High School. Michigan State University announced this week that they will be hiring an independent firm to conduct a review of the university and its public safety and police department's response to the February 13th shooting at Berkey Hall and the MSU Union. Michigan State is establishing a temporary office for resource and support coordination, which will be headed by 2 university employees, one of each with a background and expertise in trauma and an expertise and background in emergency operations. The independent firm contracted by MSU to review the shooting will be security risk management consultants out of Columbus, Ohio, who will be receiving $193,840 as compensation for their services. Among the many questions the public and MSU are looking to answer through this independent review: what caused the nearly 15-minute delay between the first shots fired being called in to 911 and the campus-wide alert being sent out to students, staff, faculty, and others at MSU. In addition, many concerns have arisen regarding Michigan State's lack of locks on classroom doors prior to the February shooting, as well as their security systems, which are not yet optimized for monitoring buildings and campus common areas and more in real time. The independent review will be made public upon its completion, which is expected to happen later on in this year. Said spokesperson Dan Olson from Michigan State University, quote, "We have not solidified a firm timeline at this point of time, but that's something we are working towards," end closed quote. As for the new temporary Office for Resource and Support Coordination, according to Bridge, Michigan, that office will do the following among its tasks. 1, provide support and coordination for families and survivors, help coordinate the university's case management process for people seeking clinical and non-clinical care. 3rd, develop trauma-informed communication protocols for how key decisions are shared with the campus and specifically those directly impacted. Fourth, provide guidance on trauma-informed ways to implement and share information around new safety and security measures. 5, coordinate and advise on long-term structures and programs to promote campus healing and resilience completion, and closed quote. So this is all centered around figuring out what happened on February 13th amongst all the information that is out there, all the 911 calls, all the police information and communications from that day, communications on campus between the university and its student body and the faculty and the staff as this was all unfolding over the several hours of that night and into the early hours of February 14th of Valentine's Day that this all had gone down at Michigan State University. What led to this situation even being possible on campus? What went wrong in terms of the communication, in terms of the security apparatus that were in place and are currently in place? What can be done to change protocols in the future so that something like this doesn't have as big of an impact as it did have on February 13th, or better yet, that this doesn't happen at all? It's all about unpacking the unthinkable, so it's hopefully never unthinkable again, which it's horrible to consider. That's something that no university, no school environment should ever have to go through, but it's a reality of our modern day. And for these schools like Oxford High School, like Michigan State University, that have gone through something like this, unfortunately, they are uniquely in a position to review what would happen in this sort of a scenario. And they can imagine the worst case scenario because they've been through the worst case scenario. And so in the case of Michigan State, they're already taking some security measures in order to ensure better student safety and faculty and staff safety on campus than had been taken in the past. Nowadays, certain buildings across campus are limited to when they're open to the public, and specifically are locked to the public at night and requiring key card access in order to get into those buildings. And that's usually something that's only going to be available to students, to staff, to faculty, to university employees, and so on, in order to get into common areas like the MSU Union, which reopened very recently here in the month of April, as well as classroom buildings and so on and so forth. In terms of getting locks on classroom doors, more information on where that may or may not happen on campus will certainly come in the future. Probably will be a significant portion of this report from security risk management consultants out of Columbus, Ohio, will include what the university should do in terms of locks on classroom doors, where there should be locks and maybe should not be locks, how those locks operate from inside or outside or having remote access, so perhaps maybe the university can when encountering an emergency, either an active shooter like happened in February or a potential hazard to the campus nearby that often causes schools to go into lockdown just as a safety precaution, just out of an abundance of caution. If there's somebody, I recall when I was in high school, we had briefly gone into lockdown because there was an incident, I believe, I recall correctly, it was a robbery or attempted robbery, reported robbery at a business just up the street. And not knowing if this person was dangerous and was fleeing and would maybe try to do something drastic to take their own cover from law enforcement, perhaps they'd go to the high school, and so it got locked down. Didn't last very long. It was maybe 45 minutes in total before the lockdown was eventually lifted, but that's the kind of precaution that does get taken. And in the case of a university like Michigan State, with the technology that is in place today, or better yet, is available today, perhaps that could be a measure that's taken. That's going to be analyzed here. We don't know exactly what steps they're going to take. They don't know exactly what steps they're going to take in some cases just yet, because that information hasn't been relayed back to them. That's why they've established this temporary office. That's why they have set forth certain goals for that office and for this independent firm. I mean, it's almost $200,000 being given from the university to this firm out of Columbus, Ohio, in order to conduct that independent investigation, similar to what Guidepost Solutions is doing in Oxford, to learn more about where things went wrong, what protocols can be changed to better equip the university to prevent a tragedy like this from happening ever again in the future. Plenty of more information from Isabel Lohman and the team at Bridge, Michigan on this matter from Michigan State University. That article at the top of our page on this Tuesday at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Also making headlines today from Nora Rahal at the Detroit Free Press. In today's techie world, every action you take online could potentially put your information at risk. But evidently, so could the outlets that you plug your devices into. According to the Michigan Attorney General's office, nowadays hackers have evolved their tactics to using USB ports and certain charging cables in public places to steal your personal information. All it takes is simply connecting your device to the cord itself. Once you plug in your device for that much needed charge, they get their much coveted window to steal your precious passwords, banking information, and other critical private info on your phone or other devices. It's what's known as juice jacking, and this malware is usually invading your devices in public places like airports, hotel lobbies, or other areas that are commonly frequented by people and may have free charging ports or USB charging cables available to anyone who is frequenting that area. But according to Attorney General Dana Nessel's office, this may not be the only way that somebody can get you in this manner in public. The FCC has even warned that hackers are giving away these infected cables to unsuspecting consumers as a quote-unquote promotional gift. And all it takes is a few seconds with the wrong cord plugged into your device, and all of a sudden you are thrust into a whirlwind of backtracking to save your data. So, what can you do to avoid being juice jacked? Much like a public Wi-Fi network, it's always best to avoid public cords if you can do so, especially a USB charging outlet. It's suggested that instead you bring an AC compatible charger instead. Maybe you have your own cord and your own charger that you can connect that USB cord to, so either you can tether your phone or your tablet or something else into a computer or something along that regard, or a USB outlet you may have at home. Usually those will also come along with an AC compatible charger itself that you can plug the USB cord into and then plug it into a wall outlet instead of using a public cord that you don't know who has used it before, what sort of malware or other viruses may have been put onto that specific cord. So use an AC compatible charger instead if you have one. Perhaps you could also carry an external battery that you can charge at home and bring with you to use in emergency situations with one of your own cords, or a portable charger is also a good way to have some extra juice for your devices without having to use a public cord and perhaps being juice jacked. Only purchase charging devices and cords from trusted outlets. So those would be your local tech shop, one of the big box store tech shops like Best Buy or Office Max or something along those lines, where you know you're getting cords that are being mass produced for individuals that are backed by national companies or multinational companies. You're not getting it from some random person. Now, that doesn't guarantee that foul play isn't potentially on hand from bad actors working behind the scenes at those stores or at the manufacturers of these products, but your chances of getting got are much smaller than trusting Johnny Ding Dong down by the docks handing you a free USB cable. So it's putting you in a better position, a more secure position in today's technologically savvy world to not end up putting your information at risk simply by plugging a cord in somewhere you may not be familiar with. Lastly, if you plug in a USB cord to an outlet and it asks if you want to share your data or simply just charge your device, select charge only. But that should really only be done if it's an absolute last-ditch measure. You have nowhere else to charge your phone. You're on a few percentage points from being completely out of battery life on your device, and you absolutely have to charge. If that's the case and you do plug into a public port, to a public outlet, and it gives you that option to either share your data or simply just charge your device, always select charge your device and don't select the sharing of your data. It's just like if you're on a public Wi-Fi network and you don't have a VPN or some other security measures on on your device, you're putting your info potentially at risk. Someone joins that network, they're able to find your device, they could potentially get into your device and steal your info, whether it be passwords or documents or simply just anything that's on your computer. Maybe you do have a document that's got your address, your social security number. Maybe you've made you've broken the cardinal rule of don't put your passwords in a document and put that on your desktop saying passwords, and they go in, they're able to find that, and now they can get into all your accounts, your email, your banking, and so on and so forth. That's something that's been warned about for years, and using public Wi-Fi. It's why it's suggested you use a VPN, or you avoid using a public Wi-Fi network altogether unless it's absolutely necessary to do so. Now it seems to be that's the similar case in using USB charging cords or USB charging ports in public places. You never know who has used it before or who has tampered with those devices or with those ports and could potentially be putting your private information at risk. And speaking from experience, if your private information is stolen, if your identity is stolen, that is a complicated knot to unwind. And it can take a lot of years, it can take a lot of time, it could take years, it could take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of research on your own to try to untangle that knot that these people have put you through. And all they need is a little bit of info in order to put forth these efforts, especially if they've been doing this for a while and they're relatively experienced in hacking and stealing your personal information. Maybe they're not even going to use it. Maybe they're just going to sell it on the web to other people that want to use it for those nefarious purposes. That's all they need. All they need nowadays, in some cases, in the cases of using this cyber theft tactic called juice jacking, all they really need to do is simply have you plug in your device. They get access to your device, to the info and the data that is on that device, and are able through malware to collect that data and sell it or use it on their own in ways that you may not want them to use it, or you may not want that just to be out there beyond your device. So as always, in today's world, with the technology we have, with the way we're all digitally connected in some ways and others, it's always best to err on the side of caution and think twice about every action that you're taking with your devices, because it could potentially put yours or other people's info at risk. So, really interesting article here from the Detroit Free Press. They did a great job of taking this information from the Michigan Department of the Attorney General and diving into it, giving you some great tips as well. There's supporting information and links to other articles and other resources from the Attorney General's office and beyond in terms of how you can avoid juice jacking, this new tactic being used by cyber thieves to steal your data. CivicCenterTV.com on our local news page. That's where that article is. It's the second one on today's program. Finally, making headlines today on our local news page on CivicCenterTV.com, this time from Carol Thompson at the Detroit News. Michigan is getting better year after year at recycling our plastics, paper, and other reusable products. But it's not quite outcompeting other states in the union at this eco-conscious effort, at least not at this time. Recycling in Michigan has been on the rise in recent years, going up to 21% as of 2022. That is a rise from 14.25% before 2019, per the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, otherwise known as EGLE. That's an all-time high for the Great Lakes state, but places Michigan still over 10% below the national recycling average, which currently sits at 32%, according to the EPA. Governor Whitmer has set a goal to hit the 30% mark of recycling in Michigan by 2025, and a staggering jump 5 years later to 45% by 2030. That also according to the Department of EGLE. Said EGLE public advocate Regina Strong, quote, by growing recycling opportunities like the one we're announcing today, which is linked in this article, we're creating jobs and building strong communities. Equitable access to recycling opportunities is key to Michigan's success in becoming a leader in recycling. There's plenty of more information on this in this article about different tactics that are being used by the state of Michigan, by EGLE, by local communities and their recycling contractors in order to make, as was said by Regina Strong in this article, more equitable access to recycling opportunities and allowing people to recycle more if they choose to do so. Whereas in the past, we've had those small rectangular containers that had usually had an open top or very breakable top to it, and couldn't really fit a whole lot of plastic bottles or bags or paper or cardboard boxes or other recyclable materials in them. Now we can have those larger garbage containers. A lot of them are rolling. They're rather large. That can fit a couple weeks worth of recycling into it, or you can just recycle more products and focus on using more reusable products that can be recycled in these cases instead. And so it creates a better ability for us to at least try to recycle products that are in our homes or in our workplaces and so on and so forth. Another issue in recycling has been simply having equipment that is actually viable to put those recyclable materials through that process itself. Those can often be expensive to obtain, to maintain, and to operate, and they're not necessarily so widely available as you would think that they would be, considering that recycling has been a massive effort that has grown and grown and grown in the U.S. over the past 20 to 30 years. That's not necessarily the case everywhere, but federal and statewide grants are helping to make that even more available. And that's also information that we have on our website, on our local news page, on civiccentertv.com. If you scroll through that article, or you click through to that article, and you can see even more information about some of these grants that are being awarded, including one that's over $400,000, $465,000 going to Waste Management, which is one of the companies here in our local area that provides recycling services, for a $35 million recycling processing facility that the company plans to build in Detroit that could process 40 tons of material per hour in a single stream recycling effort in more locations. And so that's going to be able to expand the number of materials that can be recycled on a given day or recycled at all and put through those processes, which opens up a greater ability to recycle materials. They're not sitting there wasting away, potentially becoming unviable over time and end up going into landfills anyway. Perhaps that can help to make that even more of a viable option. A $1 million grant going to the city of Flint is another one listed in this article, to provide all 34,000 households in that city with a free 96-gallon recycling cart. That's one of those big ones that you see rolling around in some communities at the bottom of driveways. It's not that tiny little blue recycling bin we used to use way back in the early aughts and in the late 90s and through much of the early 10s as well. It's a big, huge cart that allows people to put more materials in there, recycle more materials over time. That's not necessarily been available to every community in Michigan. And so the more communities that those are available to, the greater opportunity people have to recycle more materials and not have to pick and choose what they're going to put in their recycling bin and what they're going to decide, well, it may be recyclable, but I got to throw it in the trash bin and send it to a landfill instead. Greater opportunities and more communities leads to more recycling, just among some of the efforts that are being taken and the money that's being put in through grants here in the state of Michigan to help encourage more recycling so we can continue to be on the rise in the U.S. among states that are recycling on a regular basis. 14.25% of the state regularly recycling before 2019. That's risen about just under 7% since then to 2022's metrics, currently at 21%. And again, according to Eagle, the goal in the state of Michigan is to raise that rate to 30% by 2025 and 45% by 2030. Per Regina Strong, their public advocate in Eagle's Environmental Justice Department. All of that is listed in this article, linked on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. In addition, we have links to public health information from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and locally here in Oakland County from the Oakland County Health Division. That's COVID-19 info, that's RSV info, that's seasonal flu info, and any other public health matters that may come up in the future. We're into the warmer seasons of the year, even though Michigan's decided, once again, our weather has decided to give us a little bit of a throwback to a few weeks ago and hit us with a cold spell and a little bit of snow of late. We are in the warmer seasons of the year. We're going to see a lot more precipitation. With the precipitation, the warm weather, the humidity, We get those pesky mosquitoes coming back out, and that always brings up the fear of West Nile virus. There's information on that from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division on those links at the top of our local news page. Those links will take you to their COVID-19 specific pages, but you'll be able to explore the entire Oakland County Health Division page and navigate directly from that link. Same thing with the MDHHS and the CDC. Great places to start if you're looking for public health information on a number of different matters that are affecting us in our local area, statewide, and across the U.S. We have a great show ahead on today's edition of the Megacast. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we'll be talking to our local chapter of the United Way from here in Oakland County. This is the Megacast.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15. And by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Polly didn't flush. Ooh, I smell cookies.
I smell an A+.
How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program and stay up to date with all of our partnering stations, including those in your hometown right here in Oakland County, by going to civiccentertv.com/Megacast. There you'll find our full episodes and each individual segment on demand, available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Check back after all of our live shows, usually about 1 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock at the latest. We'll have all those videos from each and every one of our live shows posted on demand on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Those links to other stations too in our local area take you to all of their original programming, so you can explore all the fun and intrigue across Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan on My Michigan TV each and every day in the 23 hours that they're not spending with us here on the Megacast, live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on TV, radio, and on the web, all across the Great Lakes State each and every work day, Monday through Friday. Joining us now on the Megacast is Kristen Schrei from the Oakland County chapter of Habitat for Humanity, helping to bridge some of the gaps in housing, even here in our local area. Kristen, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Tyler. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, glad to have you on as well. We've heard so much about Habitat for Humanity across the U.S. It's a renowned organization that also has a chapter right here in Oakland County. So tell us about the Oakland County chapter and some of the work that you do through this national organization right here in our local community.
Yes, I'm just thrilled to be here with you today to talk about it. As you had mentioned, yes, I'm on the corporate development team, fundraising team for Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County. Habitat, as you mentioned, is an international brand, but there are many affiliates across the state of Michigan. And I'm proud to work at Habitat Oakland. We have been an affiliate since 1995, so we have a very long history within Oakland County, and really to the state, we've served over 1,400 families in Oakland County. So we're thrilled to be here and do that work. And I always like to touch on the main mission of providing safe and affordable housing for our neighbors here in Oakland County.
Yeah, and it's something that maybe isn't considered to be necessarily that critical of an issue in Oakland County, because when people think about Oakland County, they're not often thinking about people having issues with maintaining their housing. But like any other community in Michigan or across the U.S., this is a major issue that can affect anyone at any time, and it certainly affects people right here in Oakland County. So you spoke about that, about 1,400 families have been impacted here in Oakland County by Habitat for Humanity since its chapter began in the community in the 90s. But just how much of a problem is adequate housing in our local area, and how does Habitat help to mitigate some of those issues?
That's a great question, Tyler. You know, as you mentioned, everybody, you know, thinks of Oakland County as a very wealthy county. And in certain areas, it certainly is. But there are some very different pockets within Oakland County that are struggling. Certainly, COVID did not help that situation. Finding affordable housing in Oakland County is pretty much a major, it's an epidemic right now. I think if you've watched any news throughout the past 2 to 3 years, and now with the rising interest rates, not only is housing difficult for low to moderate income families and individuals, but it's what they call now the missing middle. It's even difficult for middle income families to achieve the goal of home ownership. So affordable housing is always the main pillar of our mission, but there are several other programs that we offer at Oakland County that address, you know, critical home repair. We do neighborhood revitalization, and I can touch on those, you know, in more detail too. But certainly COVID has really added a new twist to this idea, and it's more so than ever now. We need affordable housing out there for people.
And that's what's really important to know about Habitat for Humanity and its local chapters, including here in Oakland County. When people think about this organization, it's got such a great reputation, and so often they think about the former president Jimmy Carter out there in the community, in communities across the U.S. and especially in the South, building houses. But Habitat does so much more than just build houses for people in need of housing, because housing issues are usually very much multifactorial. They're financial. They're resource-driven. They're driven by socioeconomic status as well. And then you even mentioned restoration being a huge part of that. So just how far-reaching are these services from your organization?
Yeah, you know, we do. I want to touch on the affordable housing first.
Sure.
We are doing rehabs in the Pontiac area. We are have been piloting a new program in the city of Southfield. We have a very strong relationship with the city of Southfield, and we have built our first all-electric duplex in the city of Southfield, and we own 6 other lots that we will be building a brand new house on for low to moderate income families. And the idea behind that, Tyler, is that we will be able to serve not only one partner family, but 2 at the same time. So that has been an exciting part of what has been happening over at Oakland, Habitat Oakland. We just had a groundbreaking for our 2nd duplex last Tuesday, and we're excited to get that started. The neighborhood revitalization that I touched on is what we call Rock the Block. And the week of May 15th through the 19th, we'll be having an official Rock the Block in the city of Pontiac. And we focus on several neighborhoods, and, you know, we We get corporate funding and individual support. Faith groups come out and support that with funding. And then that's where volunteers really come in and help us with some exterior work on homes through Pontiac. And then we take that program in the fall over to the city of Southfield and do the same thing. So that's exciting. Critical home repair is also becoming a very large part of what our affiliate does. People already own homes, but fixing roofs and sometimes people need ramps. So we're really doing a great job of coming in and really helping people stay safe within the home that they already own. That's really become a really big strength of our affiliate. And then I always like to mention we offer financial readiness within our affiliate called Habitat University. It's free to anybody in Oakland County, where you could go in and get some financial advice, and whether it be trying to save for a home, just trying to get your credit score up. If you needed some help with that, we do have a certified HUD counselor on staff. And I do like to mention our restores that are located in Waterford and Farmington Hills. Those are really our home retail outlet centers that fuel our mission on a daily basis. So we're kind of offer many things that people know us for building homes, and of course Jimmy Carter being a great ambassador over just a span of years with us. But we really are, we're really a community builder, is really what we are.
You can find more information on ways you can participate and help Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County by visiting their website at habitatoakland.org or calling them 248-338-1843, 248-338-1843 or habitatoakland.org. Kristen, a couple more minutes before we'll need to wrap things up today. All of this is so great and provides so much help to people in need of some housing assistance in our local communities, but all this is not possible without help of people throughout our communities too, and those volunteers. What sort of opportunities are available?
Absolutely, Tyler. Thank you for bringing that into light. Yes, I mean, we could not do the work that we do without the corporate support through Oakland County. Anywhere from, financial institutions, individuals, foundations support us. We simply could not do this work without the help of people within Oakland County. I want to give a shout out to our core volunteers and really anyone that has come out to our build sites to come help us. We currently have about 20 or more core volunteers, men and women, retired, working, that really come out on the daily and help us lead these projects and build these homes that I've been talking about. And, anyone can reach out to me directly, go to the website. We are always looking for funding to really make these projects happen. With the construction gap right now, with the rising costs of that, it's become, a lot more difficult for us to build homes. So we've really had to get creative about how we're going to fund these projects because there's a construction gap as well as the cost appraisal gap. So we always still, the goal is to make these homes affordable. So.
And there's been so many great stories from here in Oakland County on their website, habitatoakland.org, and from across the U.S. about the work Habitat for Humanity has done and the ways that it has truly helped transform people's lives in our community and beyond. Kristen, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Always appreciate having our local organizations on the show to talk about the great work that they're doing. That certainly includes our friends at Oakland County's chapter of Habitat for Humanity. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll continue to look into the great efforts being made by nonprofits and charities in our local community when one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform joins us on the Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can always join us and keep up to date on our programming and that programming of our partnering stations by visiting our website on civiccentertv.com/megacast. You'll find our full episodes and each individual segment on demand, usually about 1 to 2 o'clock p.m. in the afternoons of our live shows. And you can always catch us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at various places across our network and statewide for free on My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the program is one of over 340 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform. Danielle Todd is the executive director of Make Food, Not Waste, and joins us now on the program. Danielle, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on the program today to talk about your organization. Tell us about Make Food, Not Waste, what your history and the mission of your organization is.
Sure thing. We are actually an environmental organization, and we exist to make sure that food stays out of landfills. We were founded in 2017. It's a group that I started way back 6 years ago, and I now serve as the executive director. We have a number of programs that we do. We try to work on things that some solutions that other groups aren't necessarily focused on. So we try to fill some gaps, and we do that with a couple kitchens that we operate. We work with restaurants to help reduce food waste, and really just help home cooks too figure out how they can make their food go further at home.
We know that food waste doesn't necessarily only affect our restaurants or necessarily us in the home. It also goes back to farming and agriculture in our state as well. There's so many different areas of our society that we can address food waste. And when it comes to environmental issues, so often we focus on recycling as the best method of not putting different products into our landfills. In fact, we just ran a story today from the Detroit News about Michigan's improvement in recycling in recent years. But another method that can be used to preserve some of this, what would instead be waste that's put into our landfills, is upcycling. So tell us about upcycling and how that applies particularly to avoiding increased use of food waste.
Absolutely. You know, like you said, recycling, and in food, it would be considered composting or other ways that you're making sure that you're reusing those materials. But one of the things that we believe is that food should stay food. And so we work hard in our kitchens to, as you said, upcycle. So we're taking in food that is maybe surplus or overripe, or it's food that's still edible, but someone has to do something to it. Another area that upcycling comes into play is taking byproducts from other food manufacturers. So let's say you are a brewer and you make beer, you're left with a lot of that grain afterwards, and that grain is actually usable as food. And so that's something that we can take in, dry it, and mill it, and turn it into something that humans can really enjoy. So upcycling is a lot about taking food items that you might not necessarily think of as food, but we know that it still has a lot of nutrition. It's still edible, and if you just put a little bit of work into it, you can turn it into something that's quite delicious.
And so let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Elaborate for us, if you will, Danielle, on how that effort is made to take this food that is still edible, but maybe not going to be used in a restaurant or another capacity, and how you ultimately do make that to be upcycled and usable in another capacity.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite examples is there's a company in Eastern Market that makes pierogies. And so as they're making the pierogies, they have little scraps of dough that are left over that just don't fit into the pierogi. And so we go every other week and we collect. They give us the bags of their leftover pierogi dough. Our chefs are able to turn that into everything from dumplings to noodles. A couple of weeks ago, our chefs made galettes, which were amazing and super delicious. Basically an open-faced savory pie that was all from that pierogi dough scrap. So here's something that the pierogi company doesn't necessarily have a use for, but it still can be transformed into something else. So we have a lot of fun with that kind of stuff, working with people who are producing food and trying to figure out how we can take their kind of scraps and leftovers and turn it into something really unique.
It's really interesting what, Make Food Not Waste and other organizations like it are doing to prevent food waste, or at least to stretch out the food that we often are going to end up putting into landfills, and make sure it's getting as much use as it possibly can and safely can. More information can be found on their efforts at makefoodnotwaste.org, or by visiting Share Detroit's website on sharedetroit.org for all of the more information. This includes their efforts at their upcycling kitchen. Danielle, over 76,000 pounds of food has been upcycled in this kitchen to date. Tell us about the upcycling kitchen and what goes on there.
Oh, it's amazing. We actually have two locations right now. We have a team of 5 professional chefs that are employed to, they take a look at everything that comes in every week. It's always random. It's always inconsistent. And it's essentially like chopped every week, where they take a look at everything that came in and they sort of, stand together and think, well, what could we do with this? And what could we do with that? And they come up with a delicious meal that uses up all of those ingredients. So they make about 4,000 meals a week. That food is distributed in a number of different ways. Sometimes it's packed individually for people to pick up directly. And other times we will make communal meals that go out in large pans, and those might go out to different churches or after school programs or senior centers, places where people are able to eat communally together. So we just try to make sure that the food is getting out to people who can really benefit from it and enjoy it. I think one of the things that really stands out in all of this is, first, of course, the amazing creativity of the chefs that are able to come up with different menu items every week based on these extremely random ingredients that come in, but also how delicious it is. These are meals that we would be proud to serve our friends and family. These are they're delicious, they're nutritious and wholesome, and really we feel a true benefit to the community.
So it's not just an effort that ends up going to preventing more waste going into our landfills and less full use of these food products that we're creating. It's also helping to address other similar and or adjacent issues like food insecurity in Detroit and neighboring areas. So just how big of an impact does upcycling efforts like this, like what happens in the upcycling kitchen and other areas throughout your network and other groups that are doing things similar, how big of an impact can that have in a local area, especially someplace like the city of Detroit, that's such a large area, on mitigating food insecurity issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, we know that Detroit has high food insecurity rates. We believe that a missing piece in it is really providing that processing capability. So we have wonderful food rescue organizations in Metro Detroit. Of course, our food banks and our food pantry system are very strong. But we feel that a complement to that is would-be kitchens and our kitchens that take in surplus food and these other food items that just need a little bit of love before they go back out. So we know that this is it's really a complement to other charitable food work that goes on in the city. And we believe that this is something that should exist in all cities, really, because all cities are going to have the same food streams. So things like sometimes you just have overripe bananas that show up, and we've all had those experiences where we look at overripe bananas and we think, oh gosh, someone should really make banana bread out of that. Well, that's what we do. You need to have a place for all of that type of food to go. And so as we know that our food system is going to become more strained over the next few years as weather keeps getting more extreme, we know that we're going to have to make the most of our food, and having these processing kitchens are currently very important and are going to continue to be even more important.
We're joined on today's program by Danielle Todd, the Executive Director of Make Food, Not Waste, one of over 300 charities and nonprofits supported on the Shared Detroit platform. You can find more information either on shareddetroit.org by searching Make Food, Not Waste in their Find a Nonprofit section, or going straight to their website at makefoodnotwaste.org. Makefoodnotwaste.org, directly the place to go for more information on this nonprofit in our local area. And Danielle, there's also another effort on top of the Upcycling Kitchen that partners with restaurants in particular that you call The Pledge. Tell us about The Pledge.
We're really excited about The Pledge. It's an international food waste certification program. We learned about it a few years ago and wanted to bring it to the U.S. So the restaurants that we're working with in Metro Detroit are the first ones in the U.S. to be going through this. It's a really comprehensive program that takes a look at operations of the restaurant and really works to identify how we can prevent food from going to waste in the first place. So a lot of times when people think about how restaurants can reduce food waste, they think about donating food or composting, which are very important. But we know that the best thing that you can do is prevent food waste from happening even before you get to that point where it needs to be donated or composted. So we have 27 restaurants signed up that we're working with right now. And as they go through the process, they are audited by an international auditor who will award them a certificate. And they know that they can join other international restaurants and hotels and food service groups that have gone through this process and have the confidence that they know that they really went through a certification program that's very serious. So we're excited for them. We have a few that are coming up on their audits, including Oakland University and Alchemy and Johnny's in Royal Oak, Sylvan Table in Sylvan Lake. So encourage your listeners and your viewers to go check out those restaurants and support them in their efforts and thank them for taking such a big step towards reducing food waste.
Yeah, it's not easy of an undertaking, to get that certification, but just in general to prevent food waste in these restaurants, because so often that food waste is happening at the tables themselves from the customers, and with food regulations and health code regulations that has to go to landfills. But in other cases, they can find that extra food that they don't need or they're not going to use or they can't use any further that's still safe, and help organizations like yours help so many people in our local area. But Danielle, for those that are at home that are thinking about this issue now that are listening to this, or they're learning more information from your website at makefoodnotwaste.org, and they want to take some steps themselves, what can they do at home to prevent food waste or to use their food waste more productively to help their community?
Great question. Two of the most common reasons why people throw food away at home is the first is they don't really enjoy their leftovers. So if you have leftovers in your refrigerator, work to make sure you eat those up. The second biggest reason why people throw food away at home is there's a misunderstanding around the dates that are on the food that comes in. So quick and easy way to understand dates is that it's not necessarily an expiration date. We recommend that you use your senses to determine if the food is still okay to eat. So look at it, smell it, taste it. If it looks okay, smells okay, and tastes okay, it's likely okay. So you can be pretty confident in that. But I would say what we like to tell people as a kind of shorthand of how you can really cut down on food waste at home is to buy less, use what you buy, and compost the rest. There are great compost services out there. If you don't want to do it in your backyard, there's a local group in Metro Detroit called Midtown Composting that will come directly to your home, pick up your compost every week. That's your fruits and vegetable scraps, your meat bones, everything. They even take pizza boxes. Very inexpensive, and it's a great program to help keep whatever scraps you have out of the landfill.
You can get involved too by participating with Make Food Not Waste on their website through your donations, through your time and volunteering efforts, and becoming a food waste champion as well. MakeFoodNotWaste.org is their website. We're joined by their executive director, Danielle Todd, on today's edition of the Megacast. We've got about 90 seconds left, so before we let you go, Danielle, what's one other thing that you wish that more people in our community knew about food waste?
People are really surprised to hear that food waste in landfills is one of the biggest reasons why we have climate change. So anything that you can do to make sure that you're not landfilling any food is going to have a direct impact. In the state of Michigan, we landfill billions, hundreds of billions of pounds of food every year, and that directly releases methane into the atmosphere. And so as a state, we can do a lot to make sure that we're not throwing all that food away.
Yeah, some of it's going to get there regardless of what efforts we take, but we can reduce how much of that gets there, or at least when and how much succession it does get into our atmosphere by taking some of these efforts. It's complicated, it's a lot to learn, but you can learn all of it through the resources at makefoodnotwaste.org. Danielle, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You can also find more information on Make Food Not Waste and over 340 other charities and nonprofits supported by Share Detroit by visiting sharedetroit.org. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. Big thank you to everyone that joined us on today's edition of the program, and thank you to you as well for joining us, as you can always do Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. live, as well as on demand on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. While you're there, click through to learn more information on all of our partnering stations across Oakland County and our co-flagship partnering statewide, My Michigan TV, whose programming you can find for free on the web at mymytv.com, as well as on their free smartphone and smart TV apps. Just go to your app store of choice and search My Michigan TV to download their apps and find all of their original programming, including us on the Megacast live from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, as well as other great programming like Lato Live and My Fun, or Michigan Fun, that puts all the information you need to know about festivals, events, and other great programming happening all across the state of Michigan. All of those resources, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Huge thank you as well to Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV and our director at Master Control at Green Media Center in West Bloomfield today, as he is every day, Calvin Brown, for making this show possible. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.